A good morrow to this fair assembly, my TJ scholars, and welcome to Monday, October the 19th. It was a gorgeous weekend. I hope everybody had a chance to get out and enjoy. Obviously, I am not at Thomas Jefferson here, and that means that very shortly here comes another episode of Where is Mr. Swanson? But first things first, we have some announcements. So, one, if you have never been at TJ before, one of the things that we are world famous for is our annual pumpkin carving contest that happens right around Halloween. Well, even though we are still, most of us were out of school, we are still going to try to do that pumpkin carving contest. So stay tuned for information. We are working with our awesome friends from the Falls Church Elementary PTA, and they will, along with TJ, get you some information about how we are going to do that contest online. So stay tuned. Secondly, I think that almost everybody heard about this last week, but just in case, we have a student council here that is tremendous, and they are led by the absolutely titanically awesome Miss Hicks. And the student council will be up and running very soon. So if you haven't already, friends, your class will have a student council representative, and not only will they tell you what student council is doing, but they'll also be asking your help from time to time. So stay tuned for information about student council. Now, a couple weeks ago, everybody, I gave you kind of a summary of how we are all going to return to TJ. And this morning, I want to revisit that. I want to give everybody another summary. And then I also want to add just a little bit of information that you all should be on the lookout for. Okay, so first things first. Third graders, you will be coming back on Tuesday, November the 10th. Fourth and fifth graders, you'll be coming back on Tuesday, November the 17th. And by now, most of you know that everybody is going to come back face to face for a half day. So some of you all will be here in the morning, some of you all will be here in the afternoon. And when you're not at TJ, you will be at home working on your computers, and you'll be doing Encore Plus. In other words, you'll have a chance to do 2 encores, plus there will also be kind of like this independent work time, and we'll give you a little bit more information about that, but that'll be a chance for you to maybe do some things like Dreambox or Mayan. Every once in a while, some of your teachers might hop on during that time and work with you a little bit. So we'll give you more information about that, but just know that that is coming. Now, here's the new information that I want to give you, and again, you don't need to memorize this now. In fact, we haven't even finalized all this, but here is the deal. In order to do a couple things, one, in order to get everybody in our building as quickly as we can, two, in order to get everybody out of our building as quickly as we can, and three, in order to try to prevent a huge group of people coming into the building in one place, each one of you are going to be assigned a specific location that we want you to come into the building, and a specific location that we want you to leave the building. Like I said, you don't need to worry about that now, guys, but that's something that I just want you to be on the lookout for, because it will be coming up, and we think that it should be really helpful for everybody. So that's coming up. Okay, so now we get to the Where is Mr. Swanson section of the morning announcements. Just like always, though, we want to start with where was Mr. Swanson? So last week, I was at a place that was stunningly beautiful. It looked out over a river, and there were a lot of rocks in the river, and there were some white water and waterfalls, really, really pretty. A lot of you knew that that place, friends, was Great Falls National Park. If you have not been there before, check it out. It is beautiful. It's only about 30 minutes from Falls Church, so it's not very hard to get to. Check it out. Really, really cool. We had lots of classes that knew where Mr. Swanson was. Miss Cowa's class, Mrs. Schmolder's class, Mrs. Dubois' class, Mrs. England's class, Mrs. Danbury's class, Mrs. Fine's class, here's the really cool thing about Mrs. Fine's class, guys. Mrs. Fine's class recognized where Mr. Swanson was because they had watched a video in class that had Great Falls in it. So, nicely done, Mrs. Fine's class. Way to pay attention. We also heard correct answers from Mrs. Muller's class and Mrs. Lauer's class, Mrs. Swanson's class, who knew a ton about geography. So Mrs. Swanson's class, they kind of have it going on. Nice job, guys. Mrs. Flazier's class, and then Mrs. Hughes' class knew the right answer. Here's a great story from Mrs. Hughes' class, guys. We did have one or two people in Mrs. Hughes' class who thought that Mr. Swanson was at Yellowstone National Park. I got to tell you, I love the way you're thinking. Man, if wishing made it so. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. But Mrs. Hughes' class, they did know the right answer. So congratulations, nicely done to all these classes. Now let's turn our attention to where is Mr. Swanson right now. And I want to walk just a little bit, guys, because I am going to ask you to identify not just like where am I, but where am I in relation to this lady. This lady, kind of hard to see with the light, but guys, this lady, everybody who is anybody should know who she was, guys. This was an American who was extraordinary, and I'm going to give you a couple hints. I've got some people that I think are coming over here, so I'll move away so that they have a chance to take a look. But let me give you a couple hints, not only about where I am, but also who that person was. First of all, I am at the tidal basin. So if you look behind me here, guys, you might be able to see some water back there. So that is the tidal basin in Washington, D.C. So you know that I'm somewhere near the tidal basin. Two, I am at a place that I have been before on our morning announcement. So I am coming to you from a place that is not like strange to us, okay? But I'm not looking for that answer. I don't want to know where I was. I want to know where I am now, specifically, who am I standing next to? Who is that person? So in order to help with that, let me give you a hint about her. Friends, after our announcements, once I reveal who that was, you need to learn about her. She was amazing. Here's the hint. So in 1948, she was a delegate to the United Nations. So she worked on behalf of our country at the United Nations, and the United Nations wrote a document that she played a leading role in. In fact, it was largely her work, and it was called a Universal Declaration for Human Rights. So this was the whole world coming together to basically decide and agree on how all human beings should be treated. And that was largely her work. In fact, when this was passed in the United Nations, so respected she was that when she entered the General Assembly at the United Nations, the delegates all stood and gave her a prolonged standing ovation. That is how awesome she was. So there you have it, those three hints. Where is Mr. Swanson, and who am I standing next to right now? All right, my friends, let's get it started. Just like always, friends, we want to be safe, respectful, and responsible. And no matter where we are, let's always, always, always do some good today. Have a good one, Tigers.